Okay, Coder. So far we have a sign up page that creates a user in Supabase. But what about being able to log in and also have the application know what to show the user, i.e. what navigations to show the user, log in or sign up if they're not logged in, or dashboard or whatever you want them to see if they are logged in. That's what we're going to cover here in this video, and potentially one more video to handle the actual navigation part. So now let's go over to our application here. So right now I'm over in the sign up page, I believe. So let me go over here to routes and let's go to login instead of sign up. And you'll notice I've created a couple of files here. I have an index file under staging, which is in a staging folder, and I have an index file which is under login as well. So if I go to my application /login, you see the login page. If I go /login/staging, then you'll see it says redirecting to dashboard, which it's not doing. We've not set up any logic, but essentially what the login page will do is the same as the sign up page. It's that the login page will log the user in, and what the staging page will do is make sure that user's authenticated when it gets redirected. So Supabase will redirect the user with the tokens. We'll give it half a second or so for the application to register that user being authenticated, and then redirect them to the dashboard, or like we've done here, provide a link, which basically then will send them to the dashboard if they were to click the link, for example. So that all looks pretty good. And in fact, if I go here to the login or the staging, I can see here's my dashboard, and let's just put in an href there with a link to members.or/dashboard. So if they click on that link, let's say the redirect didn't work, it'll take them to the dashboard. Great. So let's go to our login page here. And right now, if I put in, say, trading, whatever, my email and login, nothing happens. So what I actually want to do is go over to my sign up page and copy all of this logic, right? All the way from my message, everything. I'm just going to copy all of that. And then I'm going to go to my login index page. So not the staging one, this one here under login. And then I'm going to paste that over here. And what else do I need to do? All right, I need to import that validate email. So import validate email. And I also want to import Supabase, the Supabase connection. So import Supabase from here. And the other thing we had in sign up is we also had that message at the bottom. I just want to copy that, and I want to bring that over as well. And instead of our form handling, or our on submit, I should say, handling undefined, here we're going to put handle email instead of sign up. That'll be email login. And we don't have that function created because we're still calling it sign up. So let's change that to login. So my login page now has the exact same code. Now, what I don't want is this is terms, because that was only relevant to the sign up. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to take this logic out here. I'm going to have my email validation remain. I don't need this password created either. And instead of auth sign up, I'm going to say auth should be .sign in with OTP. I think that's one-time password, if I'm not wrong. And what I want to do is just provide the email, but this time I'm also going to provide a redirect as well. So redirect, email redirect to. And where do I want to redirect this to? Well, I want to redirect it to the current directory. And in fact, let's just go over here to use location. So I think within Qwik City, there should be a use location. In Next.js, you would use router. Here, I'm going to use location. Let's just do a quick console.log. Here, I'll do it in a second. Let's do a const location is equal to use location as such. And let's just actually console log that location over here as well. So I'm going to bring in a use task, and then I'm going to remove it in a minute, and I'm going to console log that in use task. So use task and console log location. Let's just save that. My email redirect to, I'm just going to copy that out for it, or comment, I should say, comment that out for a second. And let's just have a look here. Okay, cool. So we've got this href here. And in fact, if I go to our helpers down here, we had a root domain here, which we don't actually need. You can get rid of that. I don't know why I pasted it in there, because we can do things a more intelligent way. So here with this location, I actually have this href here. So I can have my email direct go to location.href and then staging. So here we're going to go email redirect to location.href plus staging as such. And that will forward it to our staging page, right? So that's how we can actually go and forward a sign in or a sign in with a one-time password as well, which is very, very helpful. Great, fantastic. So that's set up. And then here, this if data.user.id, here we just take that out and say if data, then success, please check your email, because it's the same process as signing up, literally the same process. And the reason why, if you're wondering, I split the process is because anyone who's used to using websites is used to a sign up process and then an email process. It feels weird to just have one login page and it's like, am I a member? Did I register? You know, we want to make it really clear for the user what they're doing. So even though there's more steps involved here, it's just more natural. It still feels natural to the user. This is subjective. You can totally argue that point for sure. But that's how I like to do it. I like to keep it familiar for the user. So usually what I would also do here is, you know, code something to go and query my server, my backend, which we haven't set up yet, to say, does that email exist? If not, redirect them to the sign up page or tell them to go to sign up. But we don't need to do that here right now. And you'll be able to do that yourself by the time that we get to the end of the series, because it's going to be like child's play for you. It'll be really easy. If not already, you might already be quite experienced and know how to do that. So this all looks good. So here, instead of confirm sign up, this will be confirm login. And that should all be good. So we can get rid of this use task here. And I can get rid of the use task in the import as well. Otherwise, I can't build my application later if I have redundant imports. And let's go here now to my login page. So if I go to tradingdydxcourse@gmail.com and I click login, it says success. Please check your email or spam folder. Now, actually, I don't like that message, how it's not giving it some space. So here I might just do something like class text. Margin top 3, something like that. Anyway, that has actually gone and sent us an email. So let me just go to my Gmail. And here is your magic link. So it says, please follow this link and log in. And there we go. It's redirected us to the staging page. It's provided us the same thing that we saw when we signed up with this access token, etc., which is what we're going to actually go and handle now. We're going to go and handle this access token and user session, etc. One thing I want to point out to you actually is if you go to Supabase, if you don't like the email format that this is sending, magic link, please follow this link, etc., and you want this to be a lot more custom, you can customize it all really easily. You just go to Supabase, sign in, and go to your project, go down to authentication and email templates. And here's where you can change how you want your email to look using HTML, both for the confirm and the magic link. So instead of your magic link, you could say something like, hey dude, welcome back, or dudette, whatever. You know, hey man, welcome back. So in the magic link, you could say whatever you want, right? It could be like, hey yo, welcome back to my site, whatever you want to say. You can go and do that and customize that to your heart's content here as well. But for these tutorials, I'm not going to do that. I think we just need to keep focused on getting the fundamentals across, or the foundation across here. So great, we have a login page working. We have a staging page that doesn't do anything. But actually what we need to do is go to our root and add our listener to listen for a change in authentication. So down here, you'll see here's root. If you're in Next.js, for example, this would be _app. Whatever framework you're using, you probably know where the root is by now. So this is where we're going to do it. So here I want to import use client effect, because I want this to run at the start of when the browser has actually loaded, right? So we're not going to use task. So here I'm going to say use client effect, and I want to go and put some logic in here. So I'm going to say const, and this will be data auth listener. And this is going to come from Supabase. So we need this actually to be an asynchronous function here. So this is going to be equal to await. And we also need to import our Supabase client here. .auth .on state change like follows. And that's going to give us an event and a session, which will then allow us to use that in our function. So here we also want this to be asynchronous. The event is going to be a string, I believe, and the session will just be some kind of object. So we'll put any. And then in here, what we'll do is say console.log event. Okay, so let's just recap here very quickly. We've got our root here, which is going to console log the event. The event will be whether or not we signed in, etc. And then on our login page, we've just added this little bit of code here that says, as long as there's not an error, you can go and print success. Now, just watch what happens here. I'm going to show you something pretty cool. Here, where I've got login, I'm going to go and type in trading, whatever email account you're using, and click login. And then I'm going to delete those old ones there and go to my email. I'm going to copy the link address. I'm not going to click on it because I want you to see something. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it over here. Watch the console log. And if you have to replay the video a bit, do go and replay it, but watch the console log. There. Did you see that flash that said signed in? It was literally like a split second. In fact, we might be able to go and see it. If I go to network here, we might even be able to see evidence that that happened. And I'm not sure where I can see that. But regardless, we saw a quick flash that said signed in. In other words, our event got listened to, right? And it said, okay, the event was signed in. So we saw that event happen. Now we need to finish up coding this, and then we'll go over and code up the rest of the staging page. So I want an event that's going to say if event is equal to signed in, then send cookies to server. And if it's not, if it's something like signed out, then I want to sign out the user. Yeah, this will be sign out user. Now we'll come back and handle all of this as soon as we go and set up our navigation. So we need to set up what's called context here. So if you've used React Router or React Context, it's very similar. We're going to do something here where when we sign the user out, it'll actually go and change the context for us, etc. So we'll manage all of that separately. But one thing that we do need to do is we need to clear this function as well. So we need to set up a function here to say that the auth listener dot subscription needs to be unsubscribe. So what does this do? So whenever this use client effect or this component unmounts, this is essentially what would happen. It would kill that listener for any event changes, because right now we have an event listener, right? So we want to clean that up anytime that gets removed. So here I'm just going to say clean up event listener. So on our staging page, I want to import Supabase. I want to import use client effect. I want to import use signal. I also want to import, so I'm going to get rid of type here, use navigate, which is what's going to allow us to forward requests or push the user to a different page. So let's set up a const here. Const is dashboard is equal to use signal, which will be false. This means, are we going to allow them to access the members area, the protected route? So I could even say something along the lines is protected. Okay, something like that. And const nav is going to be equal to use navigate as such, and that's going to allow us to push the user to a different page. And then here we want our use client effect as such, and we're going to have it basically check the user's session authentication after around half a second. So we want to give the program, the browser, everything time to just do what it needs to do to set that session, because Supabase is essentially handling this for us. So we want to just give it time to do that so that we can check the user, make sure they are authenticated, etc. So here what we're going to do is say const timeout is equal to set timeout. And we're going to have that run after about half a second. And then we'll call Supabase. So we'll say const data error equals await. And in fact, this needs to then be an asynchronous function. Supabase dot auth dot get user as such. If that returns a user with an ID, then we'll say is protected OK dot value is equal to true. And we will also forward them to the members dashboard page. This is where I want them to go if everything's okay. If everything's logged in okay and everything's worked, I want them to go to this dashboard page I've created. Else, I want them to go to the login page. This will be a signal that it hasn't worked for them. And maybe even we'll just say console.error, and that'll be the error. And error as follows. So just make sure that there's no error here. And if there is an error, in other words, else, then forward them there. And then finally, we need to return and clear that timeout as follows. And this will be clear timeout. And that'll be our timeout constant that we set there. Right, so here where it's saying redirecting to dashboard, I only want to show that if the is protected OK is true. So if there's that, then show them that. Otherwise, we could show them something like a spinning wheel or something like that, like a loading thing whilst that is running. Otherwise, what we'll actually just do to keep things really simple right now, we'll just say if not protected is okay. So if that's not okay, then what I want to do is just say something like, please log in. Now this is something you would customize in a full-on application, and I will do so. I'll show you what I go ahead and build into this, as I develop out the application. But for now, and just for learning purposes, this should be plenty. This should be enough. So what should happen? Well, we should see that if the user is authenticated, that some cookies are stored in the browser and that they get redirected to the dashboard page. And the cookies will get stored as soon as the redirect happens. So whatever page that gets sent to, whether you don't put a redirect page on or not. And then once you hit that redirect page, i.e. our staging page, then it'll forward them to the dashboard page once it's authenticated that there is a user session. Now this get user is quite useful. I think it might, even if there's not a session, try to create one if there's a refresh token. So it's quite a useful little function this over here, which we will see in a moment. Right, now let's also, just for fun, console log data as follows, right? Let's go and console log that so we can actually see that print out in the browser. Now, if we go over here to this localhost 5173, and I'm going to go to any cookies that might be there now. I'm just going to get rid of any if I see them there. I don't see any here. There's one there. And let's see if there's any here. Okay, no cookies. Great. So what I want to do is go to my console. I'm going to go log in, put in my email. I'm going to hit, let's get rid of all the old emails here. I'm going to hit login. Right, that has sent hopefully an email there. There we go. And I would normally click on this, but again, I want you to see it in console logs. I'm going to say copy link address, and I'm just going to put it here where it's going to forward us to, which is staging. And it says redirecting to dashboard, and now we're on the dashboard page. So there we go. And it's also console logged our user as we asked it to. So here we said console log data, and here's our data. We've got a user with an ID, etc. Now you'll notice it doesn't have the role we set up on the profiles table. This role relates to the user table. So this is only user table information. In the up and coming videos, I'm going to show you how to access that role information from the server and protect your route. But before we do that, we just want to use the server-side rendering that Qwik JS gives us to go and check that that route is protected. So there is functionality, just like with Next.js or Nuxt, to actually go and run some logic server-side to check that everything's okay before you decide to let a user see a page or not. So we should actually go and get that set up. And even before we do that, we need to get our navigation working, our login, our logout working. Now let's just go and take a look here at application at our cookies. So here you can see I've got two cookies here. I've got one with a refresh token and an access token. So an access token expires every hour because that's what it's set up to do in Supabase, and you can change that. And the refresh token, I think, is daily. But you can check the expiration, etc. Here you can see these are HTTP only cookies, etc. But now watch what happens if I go and refresh the browser, right? Those cookies are now gone, which is really irritating. So what I want to do is make sure that if the user refreshes a browser, for the sake of the backend requests, or the requests that are going to go to the server, etc., I want to make sure that we have some cookies stored here that allows them to access that data from the server side. So we've got to get a server set up. First, we're going to do the navigation, and then we will protect our routes as well. So there's a whole bunch of things to happen. We could do them in any order, but we're going to do them in this order where we do our navigation next. So until the next one, take care, and remember to just shut up and code.